we'll talk about LigoPTP RapidFire, a product that it is so far and for the last 5 years a flagship point-to-point device. It's built on a high-performance platform. It has dual-core CPU, integrated 2.4 radio, a dedicated radio module for the long-distance transmission, 2 Ethernet ports with PoE out, and it can be equipped with either directional panel, 1 foot, 23 dBi, or N connectors to connect to the bigger dish for the long range. The maximum throughput is over 700 megabits. It runs a special version of WJET protocol, which is optimized for point-to-point transmissions only, low latency and long range. So these are basically the features of it. It uses custom TDMA mode, which can operate according to the link load, which can quickly readjust the capacity from uplink to downlink if load pattern changes. And more important, it allows to do so at a very high speed compared to any Wi-Fi based devices. One of the features of RapidFire is integrated management radio, which is located at the back of the unit. So please remember that when you are going to access it, you should stay on the back side of the radio, not from the front antenna. That radio allows out-of-band connection, like a console port, but of course to the web interface of the radio. For the full configuration access, link test, alignment, and all the troubleshooting procedures, like you are connecting from the regular Ethernet cable. Practically speaking, that means you can monitor and manage your radio located on the rooftop or on the tower without the need to climb up there with a laptop. I can see the questions are coming right now. I hope the question from Ahmed was about the maximum range. The maximum range, I think you are asking about the range of that Wi-Fi. Well, it's a standard Wi-Fi adapter with low gain Omni antenna, but practically speaking, the range is limited by your device, not by this one. The typical range for the phone is about 30-50 meters, and this is the limitation of the Wi-Fi on the phone, not on our radio. From the laptop, last time I remember I was connecting from about 70 meters, but again you must be at the lucky angle. If you are standing just right under the tower, you may not be able to connect because the tower, the metal elements may block it. The same as like with the building, you have to stay a little bit aside from the building to be able to connect. So these are the scenarios. So that is apparently the most typical scenario when you are connecting it from the tablet or from the laptop with something bigger. So 2 gigabit ports on the radio allow PoE pass-through. The power on the second port is controlled, so you may switch it on and off in a GUI in the software. Remember that while we support .3AF and .3AT, our radio can work from either of the passive or AF sources. So if you are having a passive source connected to the input port, of course there is no .3AF negotiation will happen on the second port as well, because it's simply a pass-through of the power. Regarding the power consumption, RapidFire has very low power consumption, about 10 watts maximum. In fact, less than that in a normal operation mode. So even single .3 AF adapter of 15 watts is enough to power 2 units. That is our mostly standard observation. So if you have a second device, something like DLB AC 48 volts, one of our standard adapters is enough to power 2 devices on a single cable. The enclosure and the mounting kit of RapidFire allows easy 45 degrees rotation. The backside has multifunctional set of LEDs and a multifunctional button. So LEDs are quite detailed. You can see the link signal level in 1 dB status. In the manual, you can have all the combinations listed, but basically it's a quite versatile indication tool. So the mounting kit allows 45-degree antenna rotation, which is useful when you are trying to avoid existing interference sources. So you may position both of your units at 45 degrees rotation, just minimizing the impact of any single obstacle or on any single interference source working in one polarization only. The units are hermetically sealed, but of course they have pressure control valve, which equalizes the pressure inside the unit and outside. So when you are moving the radio from sea level to some mountains, a few thousand meters above the sea level, the pressure will be equalized and there will be no deformation of the connectors. There will be no water sucking into the connectors because the pressure will be equal. The mounting bracket is pretty simple, but remember that backside can be flipped, so it can be mounted on a very small, very low diameter poles if needed, or on the corners of the bars. The safety handle is just an extra useful feature when you are bringing the radio up into the tower. It's a safe mounting method, hooking them for the safety reasons before you deploy it. And one of the most interesting things, last time we spoke about DLB surge protection. RapidFire brings it to the next level. It exceeds class 4 requirements, which means over 8 kilovolts line to ground discharge. We tested it up to 15 kilovolts line to ground, basically twice the norms required for class 4. So far, we can see a lot of radios which manufactured back in 2015, which are still working past all the warranty periods requiring no service. But remember, all that works only when you have grounding. On the web interface itself, it's pretty much the same as you can see on DLBs. It's all HTML5 based. It can scale according to your screen size and orientation. So you can quickly zoom in and out regardless of your device. Phone or the big laptop. You can see maximum of the information regardless of the device type. Another interesting feature of RapidFire is link setup wizard, which excludes the human errors when two ends of the link, master and slave, are configured by different persons or even by the same person, but some of the parameters are missing, or if there is some mismatch in the configuration. And when they brought to the field, that creates an issue that they do not connect. To prevent that from happening, both units can be configured at the same time using the link setup wizard. So it's enough to connect to one device and configure it, and then push the configuration across a wireless or wired connection to the slave end. So you have zero mistake options to make sure that the units will work with each other. As you can see by that diagram, for the initial provisioning, you may connect the second unit into the same Ethernet socket, or you can just leave it next to the radio within few meters range, and they will sense each other through the wireless link, or they can even connect to each other using Wi-Fi management interface. So all those options are available: wired or wireless pre-configuration and initial provisioning. Any blank device can be configured together with the master. If the device has been already pre-configured, the master will not find it, the wizard will not find it, obviously, unless you reset it to the factory defaults. So that's how it works. It guides you through the country selection, operational mode selection, the master end or slave end. You can upload the configuration if you've saved it previously from the file when you are reconfiguring the new devices just to replace the old ones. And that's it. It will ask you for the set of basic parameters like encryption key, which is mandatory. The password. So encryption keys will be derived from that password dynamically. And IP address for the management. After that, it will find and provision the slave device. You will be able to confirm the slave configuration. When you see the message that everything is done and finished, you will be able to have it fully configured with the basic parameters, of course. If you need to do some individual configuration, you can proceed, but the basic set, which is required for the normal link operation, for the normal installation, it can be done from one side only, so no need to configure the slave separately. That's how it works. We'll see the link connected, and you can adjust the parameters on the remote device from the GUI interface of the local end, of the master end. Just to answer immediately, even if the question has not been asked, the opposite is not possible. You cannot connect to the remote and configure the master from there. That is not supported. Regarding the questions, WPA3, no, we do not support WPA3. In fact, LigoPTP devices are absolutely not Wi-Fi compatible in terms of the normal link. The only Wi-Fi there is the management. So the full protocol running on the main radio is fully proprietary. It is not subject to any Wi-Fi security vulnerabilities, which is a good thing. At the same time, it does not support any of the Wi-Fi standards, good or bad. Regarding the encryption, the maximum it supports right now is AES 128, and it is hardware accelerated. In fact, we started the option of AES 256 on that hardware, but since it is not fully hardware accelerated, Marvell allows us to do so. But unfortunately, there is a significant performance degradation. So we did not push for that. We don't want the packet per second processing power to drop several times. So it is AES 128 currently, and it will remain like that. There was another question, are these radios bidirectional or not? I may not understand your question. They are not FDD. All of our radios are TDD duplex, so they use one channel for transmit and receive. So if you see, say, the performance of 700 megabits, it can be achieved 100% in one direction, or it can be shared at any ratio between uplink and downlink. But master and slave operate on the same frequency channel. So it is TDD, time division duplex. So one of the features that appeared in RapidFire first and then were added on DLVs is a spectrum analyzer, which is pretty precise tool to find out what's going on around you and which part of the spectrum you can operate with. It can show you the real-time statistics and, of course, cumulative picture using that couple of minutes observation. You can clearly decide which part of the spectrum you want your link to stay on. Yeah, so that is a page about security, which I already spoke about. That the RapidFire link is always encrypted with AES 128. It cannot work without a password. Without a password, it will operate in that discovery mode, so it can be discovered by the master. After that, you have to specify the link password. The keys will be calculated automatically, and the slave will be provisioned with that set. During the normal operation, the keys will be rotated based on the usage time or based on the volume of traffic passed through. So the session keys in the radio are always dynamically changed. So still, of course, we recommend to change the password from time to time, especially if your units are exposed, if their management IPs are exposed to the external networks. You can fully disable all unsecure access methods to the unit. So you can remove the HTTP and leave only HTTPS. You can disable telnet and leave only secure shell. Same for the Wi-Fi management interface. You can protect it using WPA, or you can disable it entirely. Or what we usually recommend, the default setting is to keep the Wi-Fi management active only during several minutes, and this is configurable after the restart, and later on it will disable if there are no active connections after that timeout. RapidFire support hardware queues, as usual, 4 predefined priorities. All layer 2 options are prioritized in hardware. So there is no performance impact if you are using that packet classification. There is some performance impact when using layer 3 tags, but well, it's still pretty fast. You will not see major slowdown there. When we launched RapidFire, immediately the same year we won a little bit of the competition in Wispapalooza event among several competitors at the same time. It has been tested on traffic generator and on attenuated line. We achieved almost 9 bits per hertz spectral efficiency, and we've got an award as the most spectral efficient device. Don't forget that if you look at the list, there were Wi-Fi devices and non-Wi-Fi devices at the same time in the competition. So actually RapidFire showed itself as a leader in terms of efficiency, regardless of the protocols used. That is a simple chart, which you may also find on the website, which shows you a kind of cheat sheet. So even without calculation, you may decide what sort of antenna do you need or what sort of capacity you would get with a specific configuration. So you may see some ballpark values, what you can get at 20 kilometers with integrated antenna, with 2 feet antenna and 3 feet antenna. So which tells you, like, if you are going to have a full capacity at 20 kilometers, you should get at least 3 feet antenna. But if you just want to go with smallest integrated version, even at, say, 7 kilometers at full power, you will get over 500 MB. Remember, that is for the maximum channel size, so that is looking at the maximum values of transmit power and widest available channel. Over the years, a number of customers are using it in their core network. And what we can be sure right now that the system behaves very stable and solid due to the high processing power on board, even when it is used as a cellular backhaul between towers. So a RapidFire is typically used not just to connect an individual customer. RapidFire is used to connect an individual building with apparently tens of users or even hundreds of users behind it. It has enough power to process it all. Okay, so let's look at the typical things, what people can achieve. Remember, even the ERP restrictions in Europe, it is possible to achieve full capacity, but of course with more antenna gain, with slightly higher antenna sizes. That's what we can do at a maximum. That's what we can do in the high interference environment when there are multiple links on the same tower. RapidFire has integrated link test. Oh, sorry. RapidFire has integrated link test feature, which basically removes the need to use an external tester. You can see what's happening on your radio under the load, so you can clearly see hold on, sorry, just a second. Hello. Sorry, we may just confirm that you can hear me. Okay, so if we can continue, let's do that. So you may have the detailed statistics on the ping, on the link test page, which shows the packet loss and actual throughput for each direction. So basically, you don't need any external test tools at the commissioning stage. And any time that can be repeated on the live link. That's typically how the busy towers look like. You probably know how to do so, but mind that all of these antennas are high performance just based on their shape. So in fact, the side lobe and back lobe levels are very low. Even on a difficult terrain profiles, RapidFire can provide a solid throughput, even in the given slightly interfering conditions. As you can see on the status page, it displays the signal levels for both local and remote site. And you can see the raw bitrate is actually close to the maximum. Even despite the interfering conditions, that is a spectrum scan from the live link, it can achieve solid throughput. For the rural areas, obviously we recommend higher gain antennas, and that allows you to overcome not only the distances, but we will talk about it later, obstacles. Don't forget that RapidFire can work in near line of sight and even complete non-line of sight conditions. We have some good results on a links even over 15 kilometers where optical line of sight was completely blocked. Of course, we do not encourage you to plan for that initially, but if your link calculation shows that that link is possible, and you can share it with us and we may confirm that, yeah, it's worth trying, then in fact you are good to go, because we have a lot of good results of non-line of sight performance. We just don't say that it will always work non-line of sight. Of course not, you will have to calculate it carefully. More typical scenario when you have a link just touching the ground, like in this case, for example, which is still challenging for most of the microwave equipment to operate. But RapidFire can forgive you a lot. In fact, it can forgive you partial blockage of the Fresnel zone without any significant degradation. That is another screenshot of the spectrum scan from such a link. And as you can see, it's not reaching the maximum throughput, but it's very close to the more than a half of it. Okay, that is the end of the part about RapidFire. Right now, I appreciate your questions regarding the point-to-point products, which are maybe most easy to understand, but they require more planning, just for the reason that not a single customer will depend on them, but several hundred of them can be behind it. Predicting another question, yes, we have the use cases when GSM, 3G, 4G operators are using the RapidFire links to deliver capacity to their towers. Since RapidFire introduces very low latency, typically much less than 5 milliseconds, That makes it very suitable for the voice transmission, even in the GSM world. Another thing, RapidFire is also available for 6 GHz. There are the same two models, RapidFire 625 with 1 feet antenna, 25 dBi gain, and RapidFire 6M connectorized to be used with the external 6 GHz antenna. Our partners can offer the antennas for 6 GHz as well, because in most cases 6 GHz can be your only option if you need to do the backhaul across the city, which is already populated and polluted with 5 GHz. Right now, I appreciate your questions, and we'll make that couple of minutes break for the questions, and then we'll proceed with NFT devices and controller. Please use the questions tab to ask your questions. Okay, I can see the first one yet from Mohammed Al Mukhtar. RapidFire is a base station or CPE. Can it work like PTMP? No, it can't. RapidFires are only point-to-point devices. Each unit, unlike microwaves, they do not come pre-configured. Each unit can be made master side or slave side, regardless of, it's just one type of the hardware. Since it is TDD, they are all identical. It's only a matter of configuration. For 25 kilometers point to point, definitely it will be, as I was showing you the cheat sheet, it can do that even with integrated antennas, but of course not at the full speed. To make it full speed at 25 plus kilometers, of course, we recommend at least 2 feet dishes with it. Regarding technical support, well, you know our conditions. We have our local partners which will be able to support you, and you can always rely on LigoWave technical support, at least within the unit's warranty period. Regarding the next question, in fact, do we have a hotspot from LigoWave? Yes, we do. That will be exactly the topic for the next presentation. Regarding MikroTik router board, sorry, I did not understand the question. Please elaborate. What do you mean? What MikroTik router board can we recommend to work with? You probably have seen it on my screen. That was only the package. MikroTik router board there was only used as a traffic generator, as a source of traffic, simulating the user traffic, nothing more than that. We do not have any particular recommendations for MikroTik switches or other devices, as long as they're standard network devices. Regarding the cloud billing, it's hard to me to recommend any specific solution. I think you may speak to Xtream guys. They probably have more experience with various vendors, and they can offer you at least 1 or 2 solutions matching your size and requirements, because that is software that is must be tailored to your business plans and packages that you are offering. For example, from LigoWave side, we support on DLB devices, for instance, of course not on the point-to-point links, which are dedicated infrastructure, but on DLB devices, on NFT Wi-Fi access points. We support WSPR interface which is a standard for remote ISP billing and user authentication. We support radius authorization and accounting, which will allow full interaction with remote radius server of the billing system, which will simply tell our unit yes or no, and for how long. So there are basic 3 questions which the access point asks the radius server when it is asking to allow or disallow communication for the specific station. That can be done for proprietary LigoWave equipment, remember, connecting a DLB client to the DLB access point in a proprietary mode. And the same can be done, same interaction with the billing can be done when connecting a regular Wi-Fi client to NFT hotspot or any indoor access point. So regarding the representation and support for Africa, please speak to Xtream, because at least for the parts of Africa, they have either local presence or they do it remotely from Dubai with the dedicated people for that, for the specific countries. Okay, so regarding the climate conditions, well, we have long history of operation anywhere in Africa. We can start from, I don't know, Somalia or Eritrea, from coastal areas with high humidity and high temperature. In that case, probably Kuwait or Dubai would be the best option when you may enjoy 47 degrees and 90% humidity and salt fog. In that case, I would say Africa is not really challenging for us from the climate conditions point of view. The only usual issue which we can experience in such places is in the very dry areas, it is difficult sometimes to have a good grounding. So probably that is the only challenge which awaits you in your dry Sahel conditions, that you must take more care about burying your grounding rods further deep into the ground, deeper than usual, to have a good contact. Because what you have in a desert environment, during any sandstorm, you have a lot of static electricity. You know that for everybody who has been in such environment, that there is a lot of electric discharge happening even before any thunderstorm. It's just the blowing sand creates that electrostatic charges. So if it is not properly grounded, these charges accumulate and the discharge going in the wrong way as usual. From the point of temperature or sand itself, we clearly have no issues, and we haven't done any modifications in our units for many years. It has been done a long time ago. We have just one model which works either in Saudi Arabia or in north of Siberia in Russia. Whatever it is, minus 40 or plus 50, we don't really care. It has been done for that. Okay, so if there are no more technical questions regarding LigoPTP, let's move on to the NFT. Let me just share the new screen. So I will talk about Infinity Controller. I will not talk about the devices, about the hardware, because there is not so many options available right now. So right now we supply two types of indoor access points, NFT2AC and NFT3AC, 2x2 and 3x3 indoor professional grade access points. And NFT2AC is also available in two flavors in outdoor package with integrated sector antenna, NFT2AC 90, NFT Blizzard 2AC 90, and NFT2AC N outdoor with Omni antennas, which has 4 connectors to connect 4 external antennas. Most likely it's used for Omni antennas, but of course you may connect, say, different configuration sector antennas to it. But what's common in those NFT products is that they share the same operating system and they all share the compatibility with Infinity Controller. So what it can do for Infinity devices? It does 3 things: monitoring, management, and remote configuration of the new devices, which is typically so-called automatic onboarding. And also Infinity Controller can do monitoring and partially management for other products, including point-to-point and multi-point. How it looks like? It looks like a typical NMS. It shows you active clients in the system. It shows you the trends of the health metrics of your system, like number of devices online and the throughput going through your network altogether. How it works? The controller is essentially a piece of software which is hosted either on physical server at your location, or it can be on the cloud when you want some redundancy. And each device, each access point is configured with the controller ID and the URL. In that case, all the exchange is in fact push from the device. So the controller does not poll the units trying to find them. The access point itself is connecting to the controller. The best thing about this, it can be done across the internet. The AP can be still running some private IP address. It can be behind 2 different providers, but it can still reach your controller if it can reach the internet. So the main aim of the controller is to provide you with easy ways to configure and manage large networks consisting of thousands of access points distributed across different cities, and delegate responsibilities for the parts of the network. Because, for example, you may provide different access rights for different user accounts if you operate networks, for example, in several hotel chains or service departments or university campus, for example. So networks can be split into sub-networks, and management roles for the controller users can be delegated according to their location and access rights, job role. Of course, you can monitor the hardware status across the network, upgrade the firmware, backup the configuration, etc. Do the standard configuration management tasks like on any NMS. But the controller can do more than that. So that is a typical configuration. What you need to do on the device itself. When you're configuring the access point, you can select the access point itself to run the internal controller, which we will discuss it later, or it may connect to the external controller and be managed from the external controller, or it can act just a standalone AP without any controller at all. Here you provide the organization ID on your controller and controller URL, in case you are using our controller, for example, in this case, hosted on LigoWave Cloud itself. So why I'm saying it's more than NMS, it has several predefined scenarios, such as easy mesh or hotspot or standard Office AP repeater scenario. And apart from this pre-selecting the template, it allows you to configure all the individual parameters on the access point the same way like you're configuring it from the web interface. But you can scale all that throughout the network. So if you need to change, for example, authentication method on 20 of your Office APs, you do it only once. And of course, it provides detailed statistics about the sessions, duration of the session, performance of the clients connected, coverage data, signal quality for each client. It's all on record. And of course, in a hotspot mode, it provides you different methods of guest authentication, paid, voucher-based, external radio server-based, internal authentication screen-based, or just free access to the specified whitelist resources. All that can be configured on the controller. When you need to run your image, please consider the size of the memory for your device to handle the database. It's basically only the memory, which is a critical parameter, but that will, I would say, critical when you cross the threshold of more than 1,000 devices. All the configuration, all the communication between the device and controller is based on TLS, so it is secure, it is protected. The key exchange is happening when you press the button on board the device. In this case, the session keys are remembered on both sides. So these are basic scenarios which you can select on the controller for each new AP. Where for each scenario you can still configure your individual authentication methods. And that's how the basic configuration looks like. It allows you to configure multiple SSIDs. You may do the detailed specification for the each parameter. And for example, you can use set automatic or use network settings options. So these settings will be global per your network that you are creating. In this case, if you need to reconfigure the network later, you'll change that parameter only once. All your devices will be shown in the list, which belong in the same network, and you can see the graph combined on all clients connected through them. Because, for example, in one office, you don't care on a global dashboard screen. You need to see all your clients, regardless of where in the office they're connected. Of course, you can move the location settings to reflect the exact location of your access points, which will allow you easier visual representation of the network, be it outdoor hotspots or large office location. So you can see what's going on in your network on a graphical map view. That is another scenario which somebody already asked. The hotspot scenario, when one of the APs, the one which is connected to the internet, is acting as a UAM gateway. It can support users connecting directly to it through the wire, through the wireless. It doesn't matter. That access point works as a router. And for the basic NFT to AC, we recommend of up to 500 simultaneous user sessions. It can handle it. In this case, it is centralized web authentication, can be made directly on the AP, which may show its own web server login page, or it can feed the login page from the external server. But in hotspot scenario, the access point itself acts as a hotspot gateway. So as you can see, there is no extra hardware or software required for that. So this is a scenario when hotspot AP will be talking to the external radio server or external web server, which will provide the authentication page or simple answer yes, no, like a radio server. The AP itself can show the page from internal web server, or as I said, can go and pull it from the external web server, which can be also the authentication gateway itself. You can create the list of websites which are allowed for the non-authenticated clients. For example, your payment page. So the client can purchase a new voucher if his old one is expired or it's just a new user and he wants to complete the registration and starts a new account. And of course, you can provide the blacklists of websites or resources which are blocked in your network on the specific SSID. All these settings, remember, are SSID specific. So for example, you may have several SSIDs on your AP, one which will be for your local office users, and another one, say, guest network with some whitelist for all the visitors. And the third network may be voucher-based paid internet hotspot. All that can be running on the same AP. Now, that's how hotspot profiles are done. You can specify the external radio server, or you can configure all the WSPR parameters. All that can be done in the controller side. Regardless of how many access points are connected behind, you may need to do that only for one AP, which is connecting you to the uplink. Easy mesh scenario is another feature of LigoWave access points, which allow you easy coverage and expansion in the old buildings without Ethernet wiring. In many places, you cannot do wiring through the existing walls. You have the power, yes, but you cannot do the Ethernet. You may ask, like, okay, but this is a case when repeaters are used. This is different from repeater. This allows you to have full capacity and no interference, because for each Wi-Fi interface of the access point, you can specify the mode of operation. Access point only, shared mesh and client connections, or mesh only. In that case, it will be dedicated mesh backhaul without any drawback of reducing the throughput. So that is how it can be configured. So nodes can be connected through the backhaul, dedicated backhaul interfaces. In this case, you don't have issues with multi-hop degradation of performance, which you will see always when you try to use repeaters. As you can see in the mesh scenario, your virtual SSIDs can cover both interfaces or only one interface, only 2.4 for example, and may have different authentication methods. The type is specified, is different. So backhaul SSID in this case will be separated from access, while they are still sharing the same physical 2.4 interface. Guest access scenario is a simplified case of the hotspot where web authentication is done on a simple splash page, which is shown locally from the web server of the AP itself. So there you can select free access, private access mode with predefined passwords, or voucher-based, time-based guest access. The vouchers in this case can be generated and stored locally in the controller. So controller provides you a kind of a toolkit to create that simple voucher-based access scenario. You can generate them all locally, delete, export, import them, and see how much of them have been used. This is ideal for the service sector, like managed hotel apartments, where you can designate a person, for example, with a role only to generate the vouchers. So you can designate a user of the controller with the rights only to monitor the network and generate the voucher, but nothing else, without any modifications to the configuration of the system. There is one more interesting feature for the marketing. All NFT devices have proximity feature, which collect the information about the Wi-Fi devices which are passing by, even without connecting to the network. That can be used to track your customers, to see exactly where they are in the city, and maybe expand your service in that area. Right now, this is about the modes of operation. The access point, as I said, can be just standalone, without any help from the controller, without knowledge of the controller, just a regular access point. It can still use remote radius authentication, it can still have guest access configured, but all that configuration will be local to that access point. Integrated controller is a case when the controller is running on the access point itself. So in case of guest access, for example, you can run the controller and do the guest access on the AP itself. That will be the master AP in your network, which will hold the configuration for all the other APs. And external controller, it shows a cloud image, but of course it can be your cloud, it can be just a single physical server anywhere in your network or anywhere on the internet. Integrated one, which runs inside the AP, can have almost the full functionality of the controller. And the most important thing, it can onboard and configure the new devices. So when you are deploying a large network of, say, students' dormitory or large hotel, you can do all that at once per floor or once per building. Without any extra software, without any extra hardware, because the controller will be in your access point itself. So that is a typical scenario to select the internal controller. integrated option. You can specify that this AP will be the master. Okay, now let's see what can be done with those access points and what have been done already. Yeah, I can see Caleb is asking, yes, the AP can run on a standalone mode. When you need just one device or when you need to connect it to, say, some other radio server or to some other hotspot provider, our access points have been tested and support a number of hotspot providers like Cloud4Y, Socify, and so on. Yes, that in that case, each AP is in fact a very, very fat AP. It can work without any controller. Sheikh Bey Salek is asking for good planning and coverage and in terms of frequencies. Yes, yeah. Please ask your questions in the question tab because that's easier for me to locate it. Yeah, in fact, you will need some frequency planning support or link planning support. Just for example, to validate your initial design, to have real expectations regarding the range and performance. And that relates not only to the long range, that relates also to the Wi-Fi projects. Because it's a very typical question from the client, like, oh, I want the high power access point. Do you have one? Yes, we do. Our DLB devices can act as 1 watt transmit power access point with NFT firmware running on them, or even with DLB firmware, they are Wi-Fi access points just by configuration. But main question, will it help to increase the coverage? Don't forget that your coverage of your Wi-Fi project is driven by not only by the access point you use, it's mostly by the antenna you use on that access point, first of all. Second, it is driven by the type of the end user device. So if your end user is using just a regular Wi-Fi phone as a client, that is your limiting factor. And you have to type into your calculation tool just to see how bad it could be. 0 dBi antenna gain and 8 dBm transmit power. What about that? You do not calculate for that, right? In the default Wi-Fi coverage scenario. You calculate for the laptop usually for 15 dBm transmit power, 3 dBi, 5 dBi antenna gain. You may see the difference. The difference is huge. The difference will be between 30 meters and 300 meters coverage. So of course, yes, for such projects like hotspots, outdoor coverage for Wi-Fi, you may need some help to validate your design and to make it more realistic according to the requirements. So let's see what can be done with NFTs. So that is one of the scenarios of managed apartments of resorts in Panama, on Panama City Beach. Over 1,000 access points in the hotel apartments, and they're all under administration of the hotel management company itself. So they don't need an ISP for that. It's basically, it was an ISP who configured all the system and put it in the operation. And right now they just delegated the voucher management to the company. So it's a perfect example of the management services which you can outsource directly, and it does not take your time as an ISP. All you do is just provide the bandwidth. Hospital Wi-Fi, as you can see, the NFT3AC device is installed not on the ceiling, it's installed on the wall. In that case, it provides a coverage in the direction of the opposite wall and it comes really well through 2 or 3 adjacent rooms. A number of public Wi-Fi projects are done across the world, from Philippines to Europe and the US, where we use our outdoor access points. What is so good about them is they are extremely cost efficient. If you compare them with many vendors, you may not find the same price-performance ratio for the good IP67 integrated antenna, small form factor device, which has all the controller management capabilities. They are very aggressively priced and at the same time very well performed from the radio side and from the performance side. As I mentioned already, or maybe not, we have tested over several hundred simultaneously connected users to a single AP. I mean operational users, not sleeping customers. Another part of the LigoWave controller, it can be used for monitoring and management of not only Wi-Fi networks where you can see your Wi-Fi clients. It can be used to monitor and manage your LigoDLB devices and even point-to-point links. In this case, you will see your clients when you configure the DLB for the controller. You will see your clients on the controller the same way as you see Wi-Fi devices. Of course, they will be in a separate group. Of course, there will be different set of parameters available, but you will be able to manage and monitor them the same way on the same page. So you can see the number of connected clients, the traffic patterns, whatever is happening in the network, including the packet counters. More important, you will be able to monitor the connection quality and signal levels right there on the controller. If you select managed mode, not just monitor mode, you will be able to modify the configuration of DLB devices right from the controller. In that case, you will have the same remote provisioning capabilities as for the Wi-Fi. LigoPTP can also be monitored but not managed by the controller. Why not managed? Because there is not much of the configuration changes that you are going to do on the controller. And on LigoPTP devices, if you need to do any changes, you just connect to the master and do them on the master. They will be automatically provisioned to the slave if you are using that single site configuration. So as you can see, all your master and slave ends of the point-to-point link will be shown. So you will get that firmware management options and full monitoring and statistics options. What you need to watch is the device status and bit rates and signal levels and signal quality. So you can set your alarms based on that. Okay, time for questions. And that was the last presentation for today. Okay, from Mohammed Al Mukhtar, Infinity Controller manages only the hotspot users, authentication and AP users. Not exactly. It can show you all your users connected, Wi-Fi clients connected to your network, even if they are not in hotspot mode, even if they are just connected, say, to the private key SSID. in your organization. It will show you connected DLB clients connected to your DLB access point, your fixed wireless users. They will be shown, their sessions will be logged, amount of traffic will be shown, signal quality, everything will be logged on the controller. Regarding connection to the radio server for billing, it's not the controller connects to this, it's the access point itself. You can configure it in the Hotspot profile to use external radio server for billing. In this case, as I said, AAA, authentication, authorization, and accounting will be done with the radio server. And say the session will be terminated by the request of the radio server by time or whatever command coming from the radios. Regarding SMS notification, it may require your external web server page. As I was showing in the examples, the hotspot can be configured to show the internal login page, or which is on the web server local on the access point itself, or it can show the user external login page, which is running on your web server, which has the script to send the SMS. In this case, you just need to provide that web page on your server if it is already done, and I assume if it is already done. All you need to do is just to say yes or no, say SMS code valid. Your page validates that, your server validates that, and all you need is just to respond in your script, in your web page. You need to respond back to the access point, yes or no. Okay, please. I believe that Wi-Fi will actually generate a lot of questions. So please take your time. I think the team of Xtream engineers and sales guys and girls will be able to process them in the coming days. And if there are any hard questions, they will be able to reach out to LigoWave for comments. And right now, I think it's time for me to wrap up our today's session. And the only thing remaining is just to share my presentations with everybody. That will be done through the Xtream guys. So please ask them for the link. I will share it with them. Okay. For rural areas, does the equipment support solar power? Good question. We do not have direct, say, solar solution in the package with the solar panel, but this is what our integrators can do. What I can tell you that several models of our devices, if you look closer at the specs, for example, 11N DLB devices, which can act as an access point as well, they can run directly from 12 volts or 24 volts, same device. 11AC DLB devices, most of them can work from 24 volts, which allow you to use a cheaper solar system. Most of the rest, NFT access points, for example, they need 48 volts to operate. So you will need the 48 volt system. But in terms of adaptation for the solar power, all of our devices have very, very low power consumption. It is between 8 and 12 watts. It is less than specified but .3AF standard. Sometimes it's just a half of it. So that's the maximum what we can do for that. Integrate with others. Cloud AP running with router mode. Let me clarify that. The AP, when you do it in a standalone mode, The default Office AP scenario is when the AP is configured as a bridge. When you configure it as a hotspot, of course it will act only as a router. There will be no other choice. Regarding the mixed configuration, when you may need, say, one SSID to work as a router and another as a bridge, let me check. I know that on DLB you can do that. Let me check if you can do the same on NFT. The only thing is, what I can tell you, it will not be supported by the controller as a predefined configuration template, but you can still configure it manually. Do you have plan to expand voucher access to quote 1 GB or per speed 2 Mbps? No, we don't. The voucher system is currently time-based. The voucher-based hotspot does not count traffic. It is not using radius accounting, so it is not doing any periodic accounting with external server. It works with the embedded internal vouchers. Technically speaking, if your radius server does that, and it looks at our periodic accounting messages about the traffic consumed by the session, if it sends us a disconnect message, I think it shall work. But our internal voucher database does not support volume-based billing. Speed limitation per user. I need to check if it is configured by the controller, but I think it can be done by say, global configuration. Regarding Barcelona Mobile Congress, no, unfortunately, we did not plan anything this year after what happened last year. So our plans were quite limited, you know, with the presence, and mobile world is slightly not our bread and butter. I know that there is a big meeting for all the service providers, but fortunately or unfortunately, we do more for the mobile business by providing the backhaul to them rather than them doing for us. So no, for this year, no one will be there, unfortunately. Okay, so in this case, let me thank you once again for staying with us during today's session and the previous session last week. I appreciate your interest to LigoWave and our equipment. So we will try to do the best to help you to select what you need. It's our single intention just to be able to help you in product selection. And if we cannot do something, we will tell you straight that this is not possible, or this is not possible with our specific equipment. There are multiple solutions around, and multiple scenarios of how to skin a cat, as they say. But once again, thank you for being with us today. I appreciate your feedback later and questions, which you may ask through the nice Xtream team. Yorli?
Yes, Mr. Andrew.
Yeah, I think you can just make the conclusion word and make the questions and records for those who wanted to ask something else regarding the support and the specific countries.
Yes, yes. Also, if you need more information, kindly contact the sales department. And for the PTP presentations, we will post it on the YouTube. So you may find the link there.
Hi guys, so this is Mohammed Taha. I'm sorry I missed most of the presentation. Just quick to barge in. I believe all of y'all got a good overview of what LigoWave has to offer. I believe there are some special deals for all the participants. that would be, I believe, your agent or your sales contact would be contacting you with. Again, thanks a lot, Andrew. Thanks a lot for the presentation. And if you all, so we were thinking of essentially having this as on a regular basis. Let's say, for example, this week it has been LigoWave. Next week we'll have another vendor come in. If you all think this is of any interest to you, please let your sales contact know, and we'll organize another training for different product range. Most probably Teltonica or something like that. Yeah, thank you again. Thank you all for visiting, for taking the time to for taking time to go through the presentation. Just want to let you all know there are 52 people who have joined in from almost like 11 countries. I believe from Bahrain, UAE, Zambia, Nigeria, and all the way up to Cyprus. Yep. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much again. And we would like to add anything?
No, thank you, Taha, for the opportunity to present to the wide audience. Once again, thanks for the listeners, and thank you for your valuable questions. Goodbye.
One more thing, one more thing, if you all can leave a feedback. I believe this platform has a place where you can leave a feedback. That will be much appreciated. Or else you can just basically convey your feedback to your sales contact. Thank you again. Thanks a lot. See you guys.
Thank you. Goodbye.